welcome everyone to the design session for Easy Solutions for Inclusive Education. This presentation is part of the Onbeperkt Studerenweek. We already had two really successful lectures on Monday and Tuesday, and this is the third one, which is unlike the other presentations, unlike the other presentations, which were for students only. This one is a combination for students and lecturers as well. So for the people that have been here for a few minutes already, I already told them that we're going to use an interactive presentation today, and you can log in via your internet browser to ahaslides.com/1698a. This presentation also gives you the opportunity to ask questions at any point, at any slides. You can do that at the question mark that will be visual in your on your own phone or computer. Yeah, I think if everyone is kind of logged in, that we can continue on. So let's first start with a small introduction about how many students with disabilities there are. So 9% of the students at the TU Delft have said during their application in StudyLink or later on that they have a disability. If we calculate these numbers, this is approximately 2,287 students at the TU Delft. But if we look at other numbers, for example, from ASIO, which is a national organization for students with a disability, we see that this amount is much higher, and actually 30%. Of course, this is a national number, but if we calculate this for the TU Delft, we see that these are 7,622 students. And this is why we decided, since it's quite a big population still, that we started up with Student Onbeperkt about a year ago. Okay, so today's topics, we will first introduce our association, Student Onbeperkt. And then we will continue working to the design session by first looking at if there are already points that we could improve for inclusivity. And later on, we will have small breakout rooms where we have a discussion on what you could think that are easy and direct implementable steps to make a lecture or just a course or just TU Delft in general more accessible. I will not always have a look at the questions in between, but I will definitely have a look at which questions you ask during the before the discussion part and of course after the discussion part. So let's first start with who is Student Onbeperkt. Student Onbeperkt started around a year ago. So we already had feedback sessions of the TU Delft. They were organized by the TU Delft, meant to give input on the policy on studying with a disability. Well, during these feedback sessions, we actually noticed that it's really nice to also just talk to each other, to other students with disabilities. And this way you can actually learn from each other. So we decided it would actually be a nice way that we would actively engage with these students, but also actively give feedback to the TU Delft on what could be better arranged for students with a disability, what options are there, etc. And at this moment, we have a board. The Student Onbeperkt has a board since October, November of last year. And we're currently 3 students. We do this as a part-time job. But yeah, Tim, can you maybe introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, so I'm Tim Bruin, 28. I'm doing my thesis with computer science and science communication now. And when I was 12, I was diagnosed with Asperger, which is a form of autism, and ADHD. And during my student time, I have struggled with depression for a long time, which is why I've already been studying for 9 years, but doing better now and finally wrapping up. And now also putting a lot of effort into Student Onbeperkt, which gives me a lot of positive energy and also to pass on that positive energy to other students. So that's me in short.
Okay, Eliana, maybe you can also introduce yourself.
Yes, hi everybody, I'm Ileana, I'm 21 years old and second year bachelor at Maritime Technology. And I had my diagnosis for ADHD in my first 2 months of uni actually, because, well, apparently high school is way more structured and everything is just nice and smooth, so everything's easy. And then at uni, everything kind of falls apart. So that was, in first place, really confronting, but now like super helpful that we have student Onbeperkt, and I learned so much already about managing my ADHD and helping others within the platform by exchanging our experiences. So that's me in short.
Okay, and then we have our last board member, me. I'm Lotte, and I am studying the Master Applied Geophysics at the TU Delft. I have myself a visual impairment, so as we can see, we have here a broad range of disabilities, which is nice because we want to represent a large group of students with a disability. And when we talk about disability, this can mean everything that makes it difficult for you to study in a normal way. Let's say you need some special accommodations, or it takes you longer to study, or you need some extra assistance. This can be, for example, neurodiverse, so just like Tim and Eliana, or a visual impairment like me, or physical impairments, chronic illnesses, mental illnesses. Basically, it's really broad. So we stand for studying successfully with a disability for and by students. So at this moment, we have mainly 3 goals that we are focusing on, which we want to achieve with students Onbeperkt. The first one is that I already introduced, is that we like to bring students with disability together so they can exchange experiences with each other. And this way, it's also nice to notice that you're not the only one with a problem. So you can find really the solution within our community. Then what the second goal that we haven't done that much with, but we started working on that during our Onbeperkt Studerenweek, is providing information to students and staff members. This is the first time we also provide information to staff members. So it's really exciting that you're all here. Really looking forward also to the discussion later on. And then we also still have the feedback sessions with the TU Delft. But aside from feedback sessions organized by the TU Delft, or like co-organized by the TU Delft, we also do our own steps towards improving the policy, or obtaining information about things that we could do to make, as a student, our life easier. For example, we looked into proctoring exams, master theses, and hopefully a lot more than that. So let's first start with our first interactive part. So if you have logged into the AHA Slides website, you will now see either on your computer or phone, whatever you logged in with, that you can fill in three short answers to what does inclusivity mean to you. And just think of the first thing that comes up with you. You can fill in 1 thing or 3 things, or you can also fill in put in more things. Oh shit, that was not what I wanted to do. Sorry. It does not, yeah. So let's see what your thoughts are about inclusivity. Already a lot of answers, that's nice. Safe environment, understanding. Those are to have a lot of votes. For everyone. Yeah. That's nice. I see that understanding really gets a lot of votes, which is also why we are of course here, because then we can get mutual understanding both to lecturers, staff members, and students about what a disability actually means. Of course, this is only an introduction session, and only unfortunately 1 hour, but okay, so you can keep these things in mind when you are looking towards solutions later on during the discussion. Let's for now continue, because I think you can add infinitely many things to this. So so to achieve this inclusivity at the moment, the biggest thing that is usually applied is special accommodations. And there are many different forms of special accommodations, but the most common are extra time for exams. This can be 10 minutes extra time per an hour, but in my case, it's even 30 minutes per hour extra time. Then you also have like flexibility with assignments, or like an alternate form of exams, for example, making your exam on a computer. But as you can see, these are mainly focused on the end of term, or at least only focused on examination methods, so assignments and exams. But what do you do beforehand, before a lecture, to make it clear how the lecture is structured, or what do you do during the lecture to make sure that it is accessible to all? So also, this is also an interactive slide. Can you think of, or have you experienced a case where you saw that you had, did you encounter a situation where you were like, this could be improved easily just by some simple steps? This can both account, of course, for students as well as lecturers. Maybe you have counted a student who is struggling, but in what field would he be struggling? For example, the slides were not readable, or the in-class structure was not clear. Just anything that comes to mind that you can think of now. You can also take this again into account for your discussion later on. We get answers. So we see here a lot of in-class structure, in clarity of study guides, breaks, subtitles for recordings, deadline overlapping between classes. Many responses here. Thank you, guys. I'll just slowly go over them so you can read some of them. 2 little breaks. We already had someone mentioning breaks before. Extra times was also already mentioned one time, that it's also a thing that could be improved. Again, I also see course information here. Physical accessibility of practical locations and labs. That's also an interesting one. Going too fast through slides, presentations. Interactivity during lectures, both in real life and online. I think that you guys already know enough areas that could be improved. which is nice because you can already think about these during your discussion. Okay, so for the next, it says 15 minutes, but I think we can get some more time because I went quite fast over the introduction part. But we will soon go into breakout rooms, and Tim has already made these breakout rooms for me, so we can continue on to that pretty soon. And there are a few things that I want to point out. So in this session, we have both students and lecturers and even some staff members. We're really happy that this is such a diverse group. And we would recommend you to use this time well to gain a mutual understanding, because sometimes students don't know what is possible for a lecturer to do, for what their limits are, but also like sometimes lecturers don't know what a student actually could need. This session is also not meant to find a solution to everything. We can have a look at the whole picture, but we only have 1 hour. So we actually want to look at, like, can you come up with some simple and implementable steps that are directly implementable and like benefit both lecturer and students. So really keep it simple, keep an overview what every lecturer, even if they only have little time, can implement in their lecture to make it accessible. At the end, we will also like come back to have a look at our what we discussed during the discussion. So what kind of conclusions came out of each breakout room. And maybe then you can also see like, but breakout room 1 had a great idea. Maybe I can already apply that on my lectures. And at this moment, I'm mostly talking about like solutions that could work, of cases that could be improved. But maybe you already have something that goes really well. In that case, go ahead and also mention it. We're also happy to know what's already going great, or that you have found a way as a lecturer that makes your lecture more accessible. We're also really interested in hearing that. So we already had a lot of examples of areas that you think would be improved. I also, just to make sure, made a list of things that you could also, for example, talk about. So, for example, what would be the essential information that should be available before the start of the course? A study guide contains some info. The study guide website contains some information, but it's not always sufficient. So, how do you take care of the information so that students can prepare for their lectures? Lectures and of course the whole course. The second question is a little bit overlapping. How can you clearly inform students what is expected for this course? And the third one is really broad. What guidelines are needed to make a lecture accessible to all? You can think of small things like readability of slides, in-class structure, but also a way of teaching. Basically everything. We want to try to keep this discussion open, because we represent such a big group of students with disabilities who all have different needs, that we did not want to focus on some specific cases. So everything that comes to mind is of course welcome here. And then also you can think of the examination. Can the exam be shorter? Because if you have a lot of extra time, then the exam, of course, takes also much longer, and it's not always ideal. Or an oral exam, or alternate for practicals, basically everything.
Welcome back, everybody.
Let's start with going one by one to go over them. If the breakout room that made them wants to say something, or another breakout room wants to comment on something that's said here, that's also completely fine. So first, we have, as staff, we want to be better equipped to recognize special needs, create a safe environment, and helping those with special needs in the right way. That's nice. It's very broad. I don't know if someone wants to collaborate.
Yeah, it was me putting this up. So it is indeed very broad, but it is at the same time, I think, very fundamental. That often we know that there are people with special needs, and we don't know very well how to handle them. And more top level, the handling is a bit awkward because we're told not to care too much because we're not the professionals to take care. And this is something I've been really fighting about a lot within my own faculty, like, but I need more equipments or best practices or training to, or interactions with people who can help me, but I need to be taught. And that's just something that I want to put out. And I think it's great that you have this initiative, really. This helps a lot, but it would be nice to have it at a structural level.
Yeah,
Completely agree. We had the exact same issue, this exact same point in our breakout room.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hope that we can find this a solution to this in the later future. We if this design session is a success, we can also do this more often, or like indeed the TU Delft maybe is going to arrange some stuff as well. So it's a very good point. Then this is also a good tweet. What staff could do, check in more often if students are fine, open floor for them to be able to ask for help. Okay, this one is in Dutch though. Offer more special accommodation, use a Pomodoro timer, 25 minutes of lecture, 5 minutes of break, fresh air, recording lectures. It's also about recording lectures so you can watch them on your own speed. Subtitles for lectures, the possibility to enlarge the subtitles for students, and not sure how to translate this one at this moment, but I think these are like really all practical things that would be able to be directly applied. So thank you for this input as well. As I said, if you have something to add, then you can just unmute yourself. Create smaller, quieter spaces that aren't too overwhelming. That's also a good one, especially for study spots. Safe, trustable environments are more easily built and felt in small circles. For example, with master students and PhDs. What about big courses? Student tip. At the start of the lecture, start stating explicitly that if there is anything you would like to talk about, reach out. Already goes a long way. Let's first get the smaller ones to see how much we can have. Accessibility isn't always facilitated by default in faculties. Work with faculty student councils and ODCs, faculty employee councils, to raise awareness and push more formally to this. I'm going to wonder though, what are the ODCs?
Yes, I can add to that. I'm actually the chair of the ODC of EMCS. It's what in Dutch is called medezeggenschap. It's the representation of employees towards the institute, in this case, towards the faculty. So every 6 weeks, we speak to the dean about matters that concern us as employees. And similarly, you have the Faculty Student Council, the FSR. We typically be the ones to voice these concerns upwards in a formal way. Of course, if people listen to us, it's the second question. I've actually been pushing for this training for a few years and haven't gotten it through yet. But again, we are like an acknowledged body that can be critical and gets noted and needs to be listened to by people making policy. And also we have Works Council and Student Council at the central level. So making more push here, I think, would be good. And if more of us do it, would be even better. And I at least would be very happy to exchange with you on this.
Thank you very much for your sharing. Okay, that's an interesting point. People may shut down in overwhelming situations, raise awareness with stuff about this. And this is also a Dutch one. The structure within the schedule of the course, whatever it's going to be. Yeah, just structure of course. Okay. I'm sorry, my translating directly from Dutch to English is not that great. Give examples of essays. I've heard this one also a lot from students. So from the essays, you can see what the lecturer expects from the course. Give tools for students so they don't have to search for them. The easier, the better, but not too many tools. And asking specific questions. Can breakout room 1 explain what they mean with specific questions?
I think maybe this is referring to something I mentioned. I was wondering if it would be useful, given the fact that there's a spectrum of various disabilities, and you want to, be as inclusive as possible, to start a course just with the question of how you can accommodate specific students. And so, of course, the idea wouldn't be that people would offer up this information on the spot, because that would be, I think, putting a lot of pressure on people. But it could be part of a general introductory, like a way of setting the stage to create an inclusive environment, that this is something you are aware of as an instructor, but that you also need to have more specific information from specific individuals to target the right people. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes it a little bit more clear than just specific questions. Thank you. Let's see, we don't have that many questions. I'm just going to scroll up to see group. We haven't had input from breakout group 4 yet. Teachers print documents more often for students who need it. Good thing money-wise for students, but also more inviting to read. I want to note out to this, just for a specific case, this does not work for visually impaired students, but I understand that most people don't like reading from a screen. Teachers less reading or different media with the same information make it better for everyone. Students don't always read everything anyway. Yeah, so making things important. Not sure if group 4 wants to add something. No, it remains quiet. Okay. I see here a summary. We need to communicate more clearly. There needs to be more support for that communication to happen. Yeah, if the communication issue is also a good one. We have group 5. We're not going to be able to go through all of them, but I will just do a few more of them. Provide lectures with inspiration and guidelines for how they can use their discretionary abilities to accommodate special needs. I think we also have seen this one already before. The first one that I mentioned. Raise awareness among lecturers during the mandatory UTQ programs to introduce lectures to inclusivity. Okay, is there one group, because I think we're gonna close up for now, that has something? We will we'll definitely look at all of them, and also send them towards you if you're interested. But we'll definitely use this information here. But is there someone who wants to add something now that has not been, that I have not read out, but you're like, I think it's important to mention this now?
Eileen Fokke. There are internationally quite a lot of lectures already about introducing disabilities and inclusiveness within the educational round. There is a lot of literature on that already. So whenever somebody wants to start that, I can always see if I can provide that.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we know where to find you. Is there anyone else who wants to have a closing note? Something that he or she wants to share?
I'm just wondering, just as a question, if it would be possible to gather some feedback on how the online thing and the COVID-19 thing is especially changing the stress factor, not just in terms of like using more tools, that may or may not have accessibility, but also the stress levels, both due to being amidst a pandemic, which makes it more difficult to get medical and, otherwise support. And also, I think we're hearing a lot about fatigue and burnout. So I'm just wondering, not like if there's a way in which we could somehow find out if there's a greater pressure that is being felt by students with special needs due to COVID and the pandemic and the onlineness. That's the question.
We can ask around within our between our members. We have approximately, correct me if I'm wrong, 50, 60 members at this moment. So we can ask around for them if you like. If you can just send us an email about what you would like to ask to our members, and we can just spread a questionnaire or something to them.
I could very quickly answer that for some people. I am a member of student. I don't know what the English term is actually, but
just
unlimited. Or oh yeah, okay. But if I may, I could answer your question, Seda. Well, it wouldn't be inclusive for everybody, but I know that a lot of us are struggling with ADHD, sorry, or something like it. And I know that most of us people can at least ask to physically come to campus and study there. Personally, I have no experience with doing this, but I know that some of my friends at student Onbeperkt, they actually get to go to campus because of it, because it helps them to have a study environment.
Great, that's great.
Does that answer your question a bit?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, that has been a very big challenge with the more strict lockdowns and having to close down the campus.
Yes, it's also more of a challenge because most people don't actually know about this.
Right. So yeah, I'll send a question, and then if you guys get answers, I'll be happy to push that in our faculty. Thank you so much.
Okay.
The whole thing. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. I think we're going to be closing up. If there are any questions, I don't see any questions. If you have any remarks, you can also drop them here. Whether you liked it or not, or you're like, oh, this was horrible, I'm never going to attend again. It's also fine. You can also write it down here instead of a question. Then I'm also just going to share our contact information. So if you have any questions after this presentation, for example, here the questionnaire that we were just talking about, and then you can always contact us through studentonbeperkt@tudelft.nl. Either I, myself, or Tim or Eliana will pick up your question, and we can work this out, even if you need some other help with it. Then I also put here the website, and probably not as relevant for you guys is the Instagram and the Facebook page, but I just wanted to share it here there anyway. And I want to conclude with thanking you all for being here. I think it has been a really interesting design session, a really interesting session. And I hope that in the near future, we can arrange something like this again. And yeah, thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day.